Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely break down that hidden childhood conditioning. You know, the stuff that makes prioritizing your own needs feel like a massive moral failure. Honestly, if you've ever felt a pang of guilt just for setting a boundary or asking for what you want, you're definitely not alone. So, we're going to unpack exactly why that happens and give you the tools to rebuild your self-trust from the ground up.
All right, let's just jump right in and ask your nervous system a really direct question. Does saying I make you feel selfish? Seriously, when you start a sentence with I need, I want, or I prefer, does a little alarm bell go off in your head? For so many of us, the answer is a resounding yes. We were basically taught that thinking about others makes us good and focusing on ourselves makes us bad. And because of that super rigid black and white thinking, we just completely stop trusting ourselves.
So here's the absolute crucial point. We are fighting an invisible, deeply ingrained psychological script here, not some fundamental character flaw. The hardest part isn't actually changing your behavior. No, it's catching that old program while it's actively running in the background of your mind. You literally have to catch the software in real time before you can finally update it.
To do that, let's look at Section 1, the Childhood Survival Rule, and exactly why stating your needs feels so dangerous.
It's wild how these harmless-sounding instructions get totally internalized as a belief that focusing on yourself equals being bad. Kids don't learn rules logically, right? They learn them for survival. Imagine a kid who constantly hears stuff like, just adjust a little, or think about others, or why are you being so difficult? The kid doesn't rationally conclude, yes, sometimes I need to be more considerate. No, the kid concludes, my needs create problems.
And when you grow up being told you're selfish for simply having needs, well, you eventually overcorrect. You stop being selfish, sure, but you also completely stop advocating for yourself. You just abandon yourself. And the craziest part? Society actually applauds this. We call it kindness, but let's be real, it's not kindness, it is unpaid emotional overtime. It's totally exhausting and it inevitably breeds deep, deep resentment.
Which brings us right into our adult lives with Section 2, Smuggling Your Needs and the Moral Disguise.
Because stating I need feels way too risky, we end up smuggling our needs into these grand moral arguments. Think about waiting 30 minutes for a friend who's running late. Instead of just vulnerably saying, hey, I don't like being kept waiting, we launch a full-on attack. We say, you should not keep people waiting. Or instead of saying, this doesn't work for me, we say, you disappoint me. We hide our true needs behind this mask of moral superiority, purely because it feels safer than just admitting what we actually want.
Let's actually test this out. Compare these two statements. Statement A, you should have informed me, versus Statement B, I prefer people who communicate clearly. Okay, which one sounds more selfish to you? If your childhood conditioning is running the show, you'll probably say Statement B sounds selfish because it uses the dreaded I word. But actually, scratch that. Statement B is way healthier. Why? Because you aren't trying to control anybody. In the first one, you're dictating how they should behave. In the second, you're merely stating a preference. It's objective, and it's boundaried.
To fix this emotional overtime and stop smuggling our needs, we need a massive paradigm shift. So, Section 3. Selfish versus self-respect, and the core distinction. I want you to pause right here and mentally tattoo this single, incredibly powerful word on the inside of your brain. 2. Just sit with that for a second. This one tiny word literally changes the entire dynamic of how you interact with the world around you. That one word is the whole ballgame. It safely separates toxic self-absorption from necessary, healthy self-respect. See, true selfishness is the belief that only my needs matter. But healthy self-respect, which your nervous system is probably misinterpreting as selfishness right now, is simply the belief that my needs matter too. You aren't taking away from anyone else, you are just finally adding yourself to the equation.
Now, knowing this intellectually just isn't enough. We've got to get pragmatic. Let's move to Section 4, Rewiring Your Brain, with a 30-day practical toolkit.
I want you to think of these 3 steps not as some kind of mystical enlightenment, but as a boring, structured, and highly effective gym membership for your mind. We always want instant transformation through some grand revelation, right? But the brain actually rewires through simple, daily repetition. So here is your 3-step workout plan.
Exercise 1. Spend the next 30 days playing the translation game. Whenever you catch yourself thinking a you sentence, pause and translate it into an I sentence. Stop going on the attack and start taking ownership of your feelings. So, you don't respect my time turns into the vulnerable, yet super powerful, I value reliability.
You are inconsiderate becomes I prefer clear communication. It sounds stupidly simple, but I promise you it's one of the absolute best reframing exercises you can do.
Moving on to exercise 2. This one basically acts as a cheat code to bypass your inability to defend yourself. If you struggle to stand up for yourself, don't. Instead, borrow someone you deeply respect and love. If someone treated your best friend, or maybe your future daughter, exactly the way you're being treated right now, what advice would you give them? Would you honestly tell them, stop thinking about yourself? Or would you say, hey, your time matters? You already know the answer. Now, you just have to extend that exact same standard inward to yourself.
And for exercise 3, every time you feel that familiar guilt signal popping up, every time your brain whispers, ooh, maybe I'm being selfish, just pause. Ask yourself, am I violating someone else's rights, or am I merely having a preference? Because wanting reliability, that's a preference. Wanting respect, also a preference. Having a preference is absolutely not a crime, and it is for sure not selfish.
Finally, let's wrap this up with Section 5, the NLP Reframe, and updating the equation.
Right now, your brain is running some really bad math. It holds this deeply flawed equation, I equals selfish. We have to completely delete that and replace it with I equals responsibility. Saying I value consistency isn't selfish. It's you confidently taking ownership of your life and your standards. When you say, I don't think we're a match, you aren't attacking anyone. You're just making a responsible decision for your own well-being.
So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to challenge that old programming. The next time you feel a wave of guilt for simply stating your boundaries, ask yourself, are you actually rejecting this person, or are you just respectfully informing them of your operating instructions? Remember, self-trust begins the exact moment you stop apologizing for having standards. Thanks for diving into this explainer with me, and hey, I highly encourage you to put that 30-day toolkit to the test, starting right now. See what happens.